I walked into my parents' house expecting a quiet planning session for my dad's 60th birthday. Instead, I stepped into a fully decorated living room, gold banners, catering menus, party favors, and a cluster of relatives who froze the moment they saw me. "Claire," my mother said, putting down a tray of espresso cups, not even trying to hide her surprise. "We weren't expecting you." That much was clear. I scanned the room. Uncle Mike, Aunt Karen, even my cousin Josh from Seattle, all in on something I hadn't been invited to. In the dining room, envelopes were being hand-addressed. I stepped closer. Richard Bennett's 60th birthday bash, June 15th. No mention of Italy. No mention of the Tuscany trip I had spent 2 years saving for. My stomach tightened. I glanced at my brother, Grant, who stood by the fireplace with Rachel. He looked everywhere but at me. "Can we talk?" I said to my mother, voice steady despite the storm gathering in my chest. In the kitchen, she gestured toward the island like this was any other afternoon. "We've decided," she began, tone clipped, "that a local party is more appropriate for your father." "A party I wasn't even told about," I replied. "Why?" Her hands moved deliberately as she rearranged cake samples. "Because we didn't think you'd be interested, Claire, given your alternative plans." "You mean the trip to Italy?" I asked. "The one Dad's been excited about for months? The one I saved $56,000 for? The one I brought brochures for at 3 separate family dinners?" My mother's mouth curled slightly. "Your father's changed his mind. He thinks the party here is more manageable." I narrowed my eyes. "Did he say that? Or did you say it for him?" She bristled. "He's nearly 60, Claire. You act like he's invincible, but he gets tired. Jet lag, all that walking. It's too much." "That's funny," I said. "Because last week he texted me asking about the pasta making class and whether we could add a day in Florence." Silence. "Look," she said sharply. "We all talked about it, and we agreed. The party will be here. Your trip. It's just not happening." My voice was low but firm. "Who is we?" She hesitated, then said it. "Grant, Rachel, me. No Dad? He's been cooperative." I stared at her. That's not the same as agreeing. The kitchen door creaked. Grant entered, hands in his pockets like this was some low-stakes office negotiation. "Claire," he said, voice overly casual, "Mom's right. We just want what's best for Dad." "What you want," I said, "is to erase me from the narrative." He flinched. "That's not fair." "You're right," I said, "it's not. None of this is—" I stepped toward the living room doorway and said it loud enough for everyone to hear. "Just to be clear, you're throwing a birthday party for Dad, funded with money from his own account, excluding the one person who planned his dream trip, and you're pretending this is what he wants?" My mother's voice cut in. "Claire? No, I want the truth. Does he even know what I planned? Or did you feed him a different version of the story too?" The tension was a live wire in the room. Rachel looked mortified. Uncle Mike whispered something to Aunt Karen. No one met my eyes. I turned to my brother. "Grant?" He hesitated. "We thought it'd be easier this way." "For who?" I asked. He didn't answer. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. I tapped open my banking app and stared at the $56,317 labeled Dad's Trip, Italy. A dream 2 years in the making. Crushed by one sentence. "We've all agreed, you're not welcome." I transferred the money back into my personal account. One click. One exhale. One line crossed. "Tell Dad I'm sorry," I said quietly. "And when he asks why I didn't show up, tell him the truth, if any of you still know how." I walked out without looking back, but just as I reached the sidewalk, I stopped. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from Grant. Curious, I played it. "Claire, Mom lied, Dad never knew. Call me, please." I froze. My own brother, the one who had just stood by and said nothing. If she'd kept the truth from him, then this wasn't just exclusion, it was sabotage, and I'd just walked away from the only person who thought I'd forgotten his birthday. If you've ever been ignored after giving your all, type 1, because silence can hurt more than betrayal. The email hit my inbox at 9:12 a.m., just as I sat down with my first coffee. Urgent. Review of data access. Audit triggered by IT. My stomach dropped. Inside, a forwarded thread between IT and HR flagged activity under my login, including unauthorized access to internal performance reviews, mine and others. Access logs that weren't mine. Timestamped during the week I was in Denver helping my dad recover from his heart scare. I knew instantly who had done it. Derek Linwood, my charming, always smiling colleague who'd been gunning for the same senior promotion, the one who accidentally forwarded my quarterly numbers to the VP with a snide note about concerns around availability, the same guy who'd been extra nice since I returned from family leave. Fake smiles, fake apologies, fake everything. I closed my laptop and stood up. The office buzzed around me as if nothing had happened, as if my name wasn't now sitting in an audit thread labeled security breach. 10 minutes later, I was pacing the walking path behind our building, phone to my ear, calling Grant. He picked up after the second ring. Claire, you said Mom lied, I said. Explain. A beat of silence, then a heavy exhale. She told Dad you refused to come, that you canceled on your own, that you didn't even want to be part of his birthday. I stopped walking. She said what? She intercepted your emails, he said. I didn't believe it either until what? Last night, Dad found one of your Italy brochures tucked in her desk drawer. He was looking for a charger. He asked her about it and she got flustered. Said you thought about Italy but gave up on it. He pressed. She unraveled. My hand tightened around the phone. She's been lying to everyone, hasn't she? Yeah. He paused. She said you were trying to control everything, that you didn't want anyone else involved. A bitter laugh escaped me. And you believe that? I didn't want to, he said, but she was persuasive. She always is. Grant's voice dropped. She also pulled 10 grand from their joint account last month. Said it was for home maintenance. Dad only found out when he checked the party invoices. Half the catering's already paid. I leaned against a tree. So she used his money while to throw a party he didn't want, and cut out the one person who actually listened to him. She's been painting you as a narcissist, Claire. Classic. I'm sorry, he said. Really. I didn't respond. I was too busy trying not to scream. Later that night, I sat at my kitchen table, Italian brochures spread out like a crime scene. I traced every detail, the cooking class in Montepulciano, the old olive grove owned by our distant relatives, the handwritten note from the Bianchi family offering to host my father in honor of his heritage. I had dreamed of handing that gift to him, his story, made real, but she'd turned it into ammunition. My phone buzzed. Amy. You okay? Her message read. I texted back. Depends how you define okay. Then I opened a folder on my computer labeled Falski Lineage, Verified Contacts, 1912 Forward. The hidden history, the proof, the map of everything we could have shared, if the truth hadn't been hidden. Then something occurred to me. I flipped through my sent emails from February, all the ones to Dad. Half were never opened, some bounced, one had a delivery error. Curious, I pulled up my outbox logs. Most of them had been redirected. Someone had set up a mail rule. Forwarding messages from me to a private folder in my father's inbox, named Claire, Travel Noise. My throat tightened. She didn't just lie, she engineered it. I screenshotted everything. The next morning, I printed it all out. The brochure, the email trail, the account withdrawal, the folder name. I stapled it into a manila envelope and wrote in bold black marker, the truth they didn't want you to see. I had one stop to make, Uncle Mike's lakeside cabin, where Dad had gone after leaving her. And this time, I wouldn't walk away quietly. If you've ever been erased by someone who feared your truth, type 2, because silence doesn't mean surrender. The email from HR hit just before I left for the lake. Final notice, your promotion is under internal review. See attached file. I opened it with shaking hands. The document listed multiple incidents of questionable judgment, tied to my internal performance metrics, all fabricated, all dated during my leave with Dad. I scanned the notes. They were based on sensitive data I'd never accessed, but Derek had. Someone had used my login credentials. Someone had tried to erase me. Again. And yet, the rage burning through me wasn't just about Derek. It was about her. About every silent war my mother had waged under the surface, using lies instead of weapons. And this time, she had nearly succeeded. But now, we were comparing notes. I drove to Uncle Mike's lakeside cabin with the envelope beside me like a legal exhibit. Email trails, bank transactions, screenshots of the hidden folder, and the Italy brochure, the one she tried to bury. Dad stood at the edge of the dock, back to me, shoulders slightly hunched. He looked older than I remembered, but when he turned at the sound of my footsteps, his face broke open in something raw and wrecked. "Claire," he said. I walked into his arms, and for a moment, we just stood there. No explanations, no defenses. He pulled away first. "Tyler told me everything," I corrected him softly. "Grant." A faint smile. "Right. Old habits die hard." We sat on the bench just like we used to on summer nights when I was little, when he'd explain how the moon's gravity pulled the tides and that even invisible forces could change the world. "Why didn't you ask me?" I said quietly. "Why didn't you just ask me if it was true?" He stared at the water. "Because I didn't want it to be." I handed him the envelope. He opened it slowly, his eyes scanning each page like a man defusing a bomb. When he reached the email logs, his jaw tightened. "She renamed the folder," I whispered. "Claire, travel noise," like I was some background static. He exhaled shakily. "I never saw any of these." "I know." We were quiet for a long moment, then footsteps on gravel. "Grant." He walked down the path with a cautious look on his face, like a man unsure if he'd be welcomed or tried for treason. "You mind if I join?" he asked. Dad patted the bench. We sat like a jury preparing for trial. "She told me you were trying to hijack Dad's birthday," Grant began. "That you'd canceled the trip and blocked everyone out." "And you believed her," I replied flatly. "I didn't want to," he said, "but it was easier than admitting something uglier." Dad looked between us. "We weren't supposed to compare notes." "That's how she's always kept control," I said. "Divide and conquer. Whisper different things to each of us. Keep us too isolated to realize we've all been played." "I'm sorry," Grant said, voice barely audible. "I wasn't just a bystander. I helped her." "You listened to her," I said. "That's not the same as helping." He shook his head. "I was complicit, and I need to make it right." Dad turned to me. "Do you still want to go to Italy?" I paused. "Yes, but not like before." Grant surprised me. "Then go. Just you and Dad. Forget the rest of us. This was never about the party. It was about giving him something real. You wouldn't feel left out." "I already left myself out," he said. Dad placed a hand on my shoulder. "Can we still salvage it?" I nodded. New dates, new plans, new terms. For the first time in weeks, something inside me unlocked. We stood and walked back to the house. Inside, Mom was waiting in the living room, arms crossed. She rose as we entered, her face a mask of righteous fury. "I see you've decided to corner me like criminals." "No," Dad said. "We've decided to confront the truth, together." Her eyes flicked to the envelope in his hand. "You went digging." "No," he said. "I finally started listening." Her lip trembled. "You think she's the only victim here?" "You made yourself one," I replied. "But you made me the villain." She moved toward me, eyes flashing. "You have no idea what it's like to be in my shadow." "I wasn't your shadow," I said coldly. "I was your daughter." She froze. "I'm giving you one chance," Dad said quietly. "To explain. To make it right." "And if I don't?" He held up the envelope. "Then this goes to our attorney. If you've ever discovered a hidden truth too late, but still had to stand your ground, type 3, some stories get rewritten, others get exposed,